Last week, federal prosecutors in Brooklyn scored what they framed as a victory in the war on drugs. They convicted Genaro García Luna, Mexico's former top law enforcement official, of taking millions of dollars in bribes from El Chapo and the Sinaloa cartel. García Luna was one of the architects of Mexico's modern drug war, overseeing all federal law enforcement. But the trial revealed that for more than a decade, until he left office in 2012, he was selling information to cartel leaders, enabling them to smuggle tons of drugs across the border. Witnesses testified that federal police officers under García Luna's watch would sometimes unload cocaine shipments for the cartel or serve as bodyguards for drug bosses. Prosecutors said that the cartel operated during this time like the FedEx of cocaine, shipping tons of drugs in submarines, ships, and planes that landed at Mexico City's international airport. And they weren't exactly subtle with their riches. One drug lord was even allowed to have a zoo with lions and panthers and exotic cats. American officials hailed the verdict as the biggest win in the war on drugs since El Chapo was convicted in 2019 and sentenced to life in prison. But even as García Luna now faces his own life sentence, his trial left some major questions unanswered. García Luna worked closely with the FBI and DEA for more than a decade and had contacts in the highest levels of the American government. In all that time, is it really possible that the Americans had no idea what he was up to? The trial itself didn't offer a lot of clarity on what the US knew and when. Prosecutors kept the case focused on corruption in Mexico, but the clear implication is that the Americans must have known more about García Luna's cartel involvement than they've let on. Adam Isaacson has been monitoring American law enforcement efforts in Latin America for years and watched the García Luna trial closely.
It seems pretty clear that the DEA and other parts of the United States government knew that García Luna was not somebody, that they could fully trust, and that in fact he may have been colluding with armed groups or with organized crime. But they still found him useful because he was going after other organized crime groups at the same time.
That might be shocking, except the DEA has a long history of playing a dangerous game in Latin America, sending money and weapons of war to police and military units with terrible records of abuse. Unlike the trial of El Chapo, which was big news in the United States, García Luna's case didn't get a lot of press. But some important members of Congress are starting to pay attention. Senator Chuck Grassley sent a letter to the heads of the DEA and FBI demanding an explanation for how García Luna was able to work for the US while also helping El Chapo smuggle more than 100,000 pounds of cocaine across the border. Somehow, after 5 weeks of trial testimony, that's still a question that nobody wants to answer.
I'm Michael Learmonth, editor-in-chief of Vice News. Too often, traditional news outlets shy away from the real stories and experiences of those living through global conflicts. Not Vice News. Our reporters are on the ground, fearlessly covering the human stories that shape our world. You and millions of others can continue to read, watch, and listen to Vice News for free. But we hope you'll consider making a one-time or ongoing contribution of any size at vice.com/contribute. Every contribution, no matter how big or small, helps support the journalism Vice News brings to you every day. Thank you.